最近おじいちゃんいるから違うけど久しぶりにバイブスあげてこー俺さんできるスイカ
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Castaway Anime Podcast. I am Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagel.
And this ain't no heaven, it is in fact a delusion. Today we're going to be discussing episodes 2 through 7 of Heavenly Delusion, and if you want to help us turn this podcast into our own version of heaven, then go ahead and like the video, head on down to the comments, let us know what you thought of the episode, and subscribe to the channel for more episodes of the Castaway Anime Podcast and other videos. So grab a drink, kick back, and listen up, because this might take a while.
This podcast is not a delusion, although the voices in my head certainly are.
Whoa there, hey fellas, Future Neon here. You might be wondering why Crunchy sounds like he recorded into a fucking toaster, and the reason is because he did not check his Audacity before we recorded, and he recorded all of his audio to his laptop mic, and that is why he is sounding very scuffed today. Sorry about the audio quality of this episode on Crunchy's end. It was either that, or we scrapped the episode entirely and re-record the hour-and-a-half long discussion we had, and we really didn't feel like doing that, so that's gonna be a real big gomenosai on our end. Sorry about that, and we hope you enjoy, in spite. Thank you very much.
This show got big very suddenly.
It had not much, discussion or hype going into the season, I think is fair to say. I certainly didn't see any. I also didn't hope that it was locked behind Disney Plus hell, which is the new Netflix jail.
See, you say that. I honestly have no idea what any of that means because I watch things in Minecraft.
I mean,
Minecraft
same.
always, yeah. So like, I have no idea what you're saying. There's no prison for me. I just
you don't remember the era
game.
of anime locked behind Netflix jail, where it would come out in Japan and on Netflix before it'd come out everywhere else, despite it being like readily available.
So, okay, so they, like, hoard it for the Japanese audience, but then Westerners aren't able to watch it except in Minecraft.
Yeah, like, for example, Little Witch Academia, Beastars, they had the show in Japan, and we had to stick with fan subs of, the, torrents from the streaming service, and they wouldn't get official English releases on American Netflix until Netflix decided to, and usually also at the same time, it was because they had to dub the shows. So people thought it was because of that.
But why not just sub it first? I don't get how that would even be an excuse. Just do the subs first.
I think maybe they thought it wouldn't be as appealing unless they had all the, like, as many audio options as possible, especially, like, for the primary audience of the region they're releasing it in.
Okay, to be fair, actually, I take back what I'm saying. Something on Netflix only being subbed would, in fact, stop people from watching it. And the reason why is because Netflix's subtitles are actual garbage and completely unreadable. So, you know what? I get their logic now.
That's why I didn't watch Cyberpunk subbed. I watched it dubbed. Regardless of the fact that the dub was good.
I just watched it on Minecraft. So, I mean, why not just use Minecraft?
But if I already have Netflix, I might as well use it, right?
That you've been Stockholm syndromed into watching.
I canceled my Crunchyroll account, man. I'm free of that curse.
Long last. Okay, so you've broken off one unhealthy addiction. Now it's time to break off the other.
Well, it's Minecraft doesn't run as well on my phone, so that's
former Netflix junkie speaks out. Also, why are you watching it on a phone?
What?
Watching such a pretty
I'm not always in front of my computer like you are, Crunchy.
Watching such a prettily animated show on your tiny little piddly-piss phone screen.
I'm not just watching anime on my phone. If I'm watching like something else, I watch a lot of BoJack Horseman on my phone.
I guess. To be fair, my phone, half of my phone screen has turned black because I've dropped it so many times. So I can't watch anything on my
phone.
God,
Just like we
I'm
need to
broke,
start talking
though.
about Heavenly Delusion before all the Heavenly Delusion fans clicked off already.
All
Guys,
right, listen.
this is
You
flavoring for the
said to kick
podcast.
back. Yeah, you. All right, hey, you told everyone to kick back, relax, because this is gonna take a while, and you weren't lying. We never lie when
I
we
hope
say it'll take a while.
that we can build an audience through our personalities and not just because we only talk about their favorite anime. That's how we stand out
we're
from the
both
crowd.
deranged. We're both completely deranged. We have a certain charm to us, probably.
Yeah,
Heavenly Delusion.
Yeah, as far as the show goes, right now, last I checked, it was currently sitting at like 6th place on the Mal seasonal charts by popularity, 7th by score, and 4th place by score if we're not counting sequels.
Yeah, because I remember checking out the season, and this was like there were tons of shows that we thought looked good for the spring 2023 season, but I don't think Heavenly Delusion was one we ever brought up, unless I'm mistaken.
We before we did the seasonal podcast for spring, we looked at it and we were like, it's production IG, and you know it maybe it could be good, but we didn't think it was gonna be like one of the biggest shows of the season. We just kind of acknowledged that it could be a show that exists.
Yeah, see, shows like Bochi and Heavenly Delusion, which I always, by the way, instinctively call Tengoku Daimakyou, and I don't know why the Japanese title is sticking with me so hard with that. There was one point where I forgot that it was called Heavenly Delusion in English, and was like, wait, what is Tengoku Daimakyou called in English again? Maybe it's because that's what my Minecraft listed as.
Isn't
on my version
Tengoku
of Minecraft
Daimakyou
anyway.
more syllables than Heavenly Delusion, or is it the same?
Yeah, see, it is, but I'm just straight up cursed, man. I've gone too far down the pretentious weeaboo rabbit hole. I'm stuck here. I can't return. I can't ever return from the abyss that I've found myself in. So when I see a Heavenly Delusion, my mind just somehow instantly auto translates it to Tengoku Daimakyou, and that's what I'm stuck with for the rest of eternity. That aside, though, shows like this in Bochi the Rock are sort of like I guess the thing that disproves the theory of like, oh, we can just make cheap shitty isekai all day and make a huge budget. You know, the sort of like cynical business like stance on the industry that some people, you know, take and say like, oh, hey, this is what works. Well, if you just, you know, make something good as opposed to something bad, you can, you know, even if something has zero hype behind it, all of a sudden it'll be one of the most talked about shows of the season. And this is yet another example of that.
It definitely helped that I think this is one of the first shows that kicked off the spring season, so it had the benefit of having the most people talking about it at the beginning of the season.
I mean, maybe, but it's definitely a lot to do though with the
pedigree is also, you know, nothing to scoff at either. It's not huge outside of well, production IG, I feel like nowadays doesn't quite carry the same weight it did 5 to 10 years ago, because like 5 to 10 years ago when you heard like, hey, this show's being made by production IG, you're like, okay, now we're talking here. But recently I don't think they've put out too many bangers. They haven't fallen off as hard as Madhouse, but I feel like they've slowed down in recent years.
Right, you're saying this show has a pedigree.
Well,
checking out the director.
The
Takamori.
The manga is by Masakazu Ishiguro, who is the author of And Yet the Town Moves.
Yeah, I've heard someone in my Discord, I think it was Huli Sheet, who was talking about how like, oh my god, it's a manga from this guy. Of course it's great. And it is definitely making me want to check out And Yet the Town Moves more, because previously the only thing making me want to watch it was its Shaft. But
Shaft and Shinbo, or is that just redundant?
Well, yeah, that is redundant. And also Naoki Tatsuya, who made the first season of that Zetsubo Sensei shine in its own way. So there you go, even more Shaft pedigree. But if the story of that is anything as good as this, then we're in for a time.
Yeah, the story of Heavenly Delusion has definitely been its biggest draw. It's a post-apocalypse story, but it has kind of like the show gives me very strong Akira vibes. I don't know if you've seen Akira.
I have not seen Akira.
All right, well, it's not like a one-to-one outside of like the side character designs. Like I swear to God, there are some of these like these grunt members, these side characters. They look like they were pulled straight out of Akira, and I don't know if that was like intentional or not.
I have no reference for that.
Well, it reminds me of Akira in the sense of there's some mystery mind game shenanigan stuff in a post-apocalyptic setting in Japan, and with human experimentation going on, but where it starts to differentiate, whereas Akira the movie it's slash manga is more about this rivalry growing between Tetsuo and Kaneda during this this gang power struggle, and the temptation of power corrupting absolutely. This one's more of just like a jerk, almost kind of like Akira meets Made in Abyss, where we're following these two kids going on an adventure to find, in this case, instead of journeying to the bottom of the abyss, they're journeying to find what they describe as heaven in this post-apocalyptic Japan.
Yeah, so Japan has been completely, presumably the entire world has just been utterly annihilated by some
Well,
unknown disaster.
you say utterly annihilated, but and well, yeah, things have gone to shit, and the world is repeatedly described as a lawless world now. There's no longer like a world government, but this is like the one of the most pleasant post-apocalyptic settings I think I've ever seen, because the world in a world that a few couple decades after an event so bad that's literally called the Great Disaster, it's weird to see that the world is making like an earnest effort to actually try to go on.
I mean, I'm not, admittedly, I'm not overly familiar with post-apocalyptic fiction. This is one of the kinder ones. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, usually in
Me.
post-apocalyptic media, when the world gets fucked by, whatever fucks the world at that point, you don't see civilizations come together. Like, dude, there's electric go-kart racing as like a sport, like was able to surface after the post-apocalypse, and the whole town like is formed around this sport, and they come together to watch it like a sporting event, and they even have it set up to the point where it's almost like a grassroots amateur like broadcast sort of thing, where they have cameras and they have a dude like the announcer commentating over the whole thing while having all of these like different screens and cameras to capture the go-kart race. It's like very consolidated to this local area because that's all they can reach out to. But the fact that that even exists as a thing, and it's not even like a some kind of weird blood sport where they compete for resources. It just seems like a thing that they do for maybe some money, or more just for the sport of it. Yeah, that's very interesting for a post-apocalypse story. Usually when the world goes to shit, people are not keen to come together for shit like that. They are much more interested in self-preservation.
I mean, obviously it depends somewhat on what specific disaster happens, but I feel like that's more, I guess, in line with what would happen, because, I mean, I'm a cynical guy. I hate humanity with a passion, but even I would be like, well, people are inevitably going to form communities and try and get along because there's inherently more power in numbers. And although, because we see communities in this world tend to be very close knit, but also like apprehensive of any outsiders, with few exceptions. Like they're always scouting out and being like, okay, what are these people's motives? What do we think they're trying to do? Do we think that they're, kind people. And, because our protagonists are obviously not out to just ruin everything. And so sometimes the community will be like, hey, you guys seem chill. We'll let you into our tomato heaven. And you can, well, there used to be tomatoes here. You can smoke weed with us now. That's what we're into now.
There's like a whole community where their like primary export is weed. That's just life. Like what the apocalypse has happened and nothing has changed.
It's even funnier because the weed ends up being really important to defeating a monster.
Yeah, weed saves the day, just like in real life.
Exactly. But yeah.
Do weed, kids. Or don't.
I support this message. I have not had weed, but I support this message nonetheless.
Yeah, the world... dude, even like the side characters and just the denizens of the post-apocalypse that Maru and Kiruko meet as they go on their journey. Yeah, they do run into your typical like, hey, we're like a bunch of bandits now, and you gotta give us your shit, or we're gonna kill you. They do run into those guys occasionally, but like, for a post-apocalypse story, the number of the ratio of like the people they run into like that versus the people that they run into who are like very kind and willing to cooperate and aren't trying to stab them in the back afterwards is surprisingly like pretty even, which is very rare for these kinds of stories.
I mean, I feel like it being even, like I said, at the very least lines up with what I would consider to be the most realistic approach of it, where you inevitably get a gradient of people and people who come together, even if there is, without laws, obviously a lot more people who are willing to be morally corrupt in order to get a leg up on the competition, or who just can't, for whatever reason, their circumstances may force them to be immoral or do something that they would normally be against.
Yeah, but there's a whole farming community that, like, yeah, while they do have like signs and shit that say, hey, no trespassers or people
all
coming to stake our shit
will be
met with like violent
murdered.
force, like, yeah, will be killed. But then they see Maru and Kiruko strolling up, and they say, hey, you guys are not looking for, you guys don't look like you're troublemakers. You want to hang out and eat our food and smoke our weed with us?
Yeah, it's all just bluster. It's keeping out the people who would seek to do them harm.
I wouldn't call threats of violence bluster. Bluster means that they're like, when the chips are down, they wouldn't go through with it. I definitely buy.
When the chips are down, they'll go through with it, but it's a lot more standoffish than they actually are.
Yeah, the fact that they're like I don't remember them even being suspicious of Maru and Kiruko when they stroll up to the village.
Yeah, not enough so to leave an impression on me.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You watch something like The Walking Dead, like, if you ain't suspicious, you're the first to die. Or if you trying to remember, what are some anime post-apocalypse stories that I can?
Girls Last Tour.
Well,
although in Girls Last Tour, there's
like 2 human characters, and they meet like 1 human every 3 episodes, and then they never encounter that character again.
They meet 2 other humans in the entire show. Literally 2 other people.
Yeah, there's 5 characters in that show, and one of them's not even human. It's like a thing.
Yeah, that's literally my only point of reference with Post-Apocalypse, by the way. Unless I'm suddenly forgetting something.
Even in a society where it's like, it's not necessarily an apocalypse happen, but even, something like Cyberpunk Edge Runners, where it's a dystopia. Like, this is a nicer post-apocalypse than most dystopias.
Yeah, although you say you do hype up a lot that it's so kind, but at the same time, it is a relentless world. There are
I'm not saying it's a picnic.
Yeah. I mean, I would consider the show to be on some level. Would you say horror is like a right genre for this? There are some scenes that definitely feel like that, where it's so unnerving and so trying to creep you out.
I wouldn't necessarily call. There are moments like that, but not enough to make it a horror show. It's definitely uh a post-apocalyptic adventure.
I definitely agree with the post-apocalyptic adventure, but there are definitely some scenes in there that are like legitimately like super unnerving. Like in episode 2, to give an example, like
We see
this show
two
is
girls
really good at
kissing.
building. Well, yeah. Okay, hold
And
on.
there's
I was
nothing
gonna make a
scarier
point, but
than
I'm gonna make
that.
it. I'm gonna make a different point. Hold on, because these two lesbians right here, who just kiss in front of Tokyo, and are then she's looking at them, and they look back, and they just give the most smug expression ever. These are the most smug lesbians I have seen in my life.
And they're like
They
fucking
have the most
10.
smug, condescending smile on their faces. It is insane. I can't wrap my head around it. Why are they so smug? It's no reason. What are they smug about? I don't get
They're
it.
like, yeah, we gay. Keep scrolling.
It's literally that. It's literally that.
And
But anyway,
that is in
that
fact why the
aside,
show is terrifying.
that horror, yeah.
Not counting the moments where like a character will just have their whole face get cut off.
Yeah, like in episode 2, there's this thing. First of all, the monster is designed like even outside of the design, right? Like its powers even are meant to be completely and utterly horrifying. It has these super fast whips that it will just send out on a whim. And the only reason why Maru is able to get close is because Kiruko, first of all, fires at it and takes away some of its whips, and then they learn the pattern of how it whips. And then even then, Maru is established to be stronger than your average person. He can jump off of heights that would normally make
he's
someone
definitely
go
superhuman.
very much ow. And he also has obviously the power to disintegrate man-eaters.
Yeah, he has the
And
power
the
to
Maru-
reach into
Maru touch.
the man-eater cells and destroy the mitochondria, which, as we all know, without the powerhouse of the cell, you cannot live.
Precisely. That's exactly how.
Yeah,
it was
he has the most
described in
broken
show,
anime
word for
power in
word.
history.
He can destroy the powerhouse of the cell. And he can even do it with humans. So theoretically, he could just kill a man right there with one touch. But like the fact that so the way he kills the man-eaters is by touching them. So a big part of the fights in this show are getting to the point where it's like safe to even approach them, which I think does put into perspective how dangerous these man-eaters are. Where like this thing has whips, right? Like you can't approach it without getting sliced and diced like that one old lady who got like torn in 3 and then devoured.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of when she got torn in 3, how fucking gruesomely awesome was that animation where it's the whip comes out. She's like, "Hey, see, no, this thing is my son, okay? We can communicate, see?" And then she fucking cuts her head in half, like from almost like she got scalped. And then the whip comes back around to cut her torso in half through her arm first, then her torso. So it's like her arm, we see her arm fall first before the rest of her body. Like great animation in the show all around, but that gore, ooh boy.
That image has literally stuck with me, like been seared into my head because it's so well done. And speaking of the visuals, right? Well, I mean, I guess we'll say a little bit more about the tension builds before we get to the visuals. There's a lot to talk about with this show. But,
yeah, this one's gonna be a dense one.
Yeah, this show is like inspiringly good at keeping you on edge. Because like whenever there's a man-eater, you can like at the very least, like it's not always the case, but in certain scenes, like you just see a man-eater and your stomach drops because you realize like, oh no,
Watch out, boy!
something
See if
horrible
she
is gonna
comes.
happen.
She'll chew
Like,
you up.
Like to be fair, the fish monster is more so just like some baddie. But even then, the way it's revealed with the eyeball, okay. So first of all, we see characters reacting to it on the wall, but or rather in the window, but we don't actually see it. And then we just see like its huge eye, and all the little hands around it. Great stuff, like a great way to reveal it. And like, you see the one man eater on the track, and then well, for context, they're doing that electric go-kart stuff, and we see it on the track, and Kiruko as a boy. God, I'm saying so many things that I can't explain right now. But
yeah,
boy,
this one's gonna require a lot of context.
Oh god. I'm not even gonna get into that for now. Just accept what I'm saying. Boy Kiruko comes in as like trying to beat this man eater, and it's like enveloping his/her arms, and slowly like his sister tries to save him, but it just the entire lower half of his body is eaten up, and it's like it's the amount of power that these things have to the point where killing them, like being able to kill them in the first place, is like an extremely rare trait. Like it's in super high demands because most people do not have the power to contend with these monsters.
Yeah, they have to like organize these kill squads from just the people who are willing and able-bodied to fight to go kill them.
Yeah, it's like the fact that Kiruko and Maru on their own can take down man-eaters is an extremely bizarre thing in this world. And the only reason why is because Maru got that OP anime superpower of being able to kill them by just a single touch. He's so OP. But yeah, it's like the way it builds up the monsters, and then the way they're portrayed while fighting, of being so difficult to kill. It's all like it makes me want to try writing something like that, where it's like I want to try experimenting with like, how can I make the most unnerving scene possible, because this show doesn't.
You hear that, honey feed?
I do actually have some scenes like that in the book I'm writing right now that I will take notes.
Get ready for the most wholesome rom-com you've ever read in your life.
I mean, hey, I'm following the rules by technicality. It'll be wholesome by the end, damn it. Emphasis on the end.
If you don't know what tragedy is, how could you know what wholesomeness is? You gotta know one to know of the other.
No, I completely agree with this. You're just saying things that are true.
But yeah, the show definitely can get very gruesome and scary. The last episode of this batch has a moment where Kiruko has this hallucination of these monsters coming to eat her, and they have like their faces are just giant black holes with like 4 sharp blades that like come together in like a square pattern, almost like a cutter in a machine, and they just like go clench, and they grab onto her arm, just fucking rip it off, and they do the same thing to her, like the tip of her foot, and just like cut off the like front half of her foot. And it's like we don't ever cut away from this. We see all the blood, we see all of like the cutting motions. The show is not afraid of getting very gory.
Dude, like even the scene, like that one dream sequence where everything is like dyed red, and like Kiruko is trying to reach out to his/her sister, who he becomes, once again, no context, but like trying to reach out to her while being stuck in place from like whatever that monster was doing to his arms that was sucking him up. It's at his feet right now.
Yeah, that monster wasn't just like eating him in the like the teeth sense. It was absorbing his body, like almost just like a Maiden Abyss monster. Like fleshy, absorbing his body, and by the time his sister comes to free him from the monster and like get him out of there, it's already eaten his entire lower half. Like everything from the waist down, gone. He is bleeding out.
So basically, what we're getting at is this show is scary. It makes me afraid to sleep at night. This is crazy, guys.
I wouldn't necessarily call it scary.
It doesn't make me afraid to. I'm being a little exaggerating. But
it's more unsettling than it is scary.
Yeah. It's very unsettling. I think that's a good word for it. And yeah, I like that about it. It makes the moment to moment. Fighting these monsters never gets stale, at least so far. You're always at some level like horrified of what's going to happen next. Like, no, like one wrong move could cause these characters to be scarred irreversibly.
And the funny thing is, the closest thing we've come to scarring one of the characters irreversibly is not even by the man eaters. It's by just one dude kicking Maru in the face so hard that he loses a tooth, and we do see that he's just lost that tooth for the rest of the show.
Yeah, like Kiruko even tells him like, "Yo, bro, that ain't growing back." And we see him in a later scene, like whenever he opens his mouth and you see that, oh hey, the tooth does stay missing. This is a series where characters do incur damage and that doesn't get healed. What I'm saying is it's inevitable that some character is going to get a big old scar somewhere from some monster. It's gonna happen. I'm calling.
I mean, Kiruko's already covered in scars, and that's
well, yeah, but those are from past events.
well,
we're gonna get one from like that we see in the. Although to be fair, the one on her forehead.
Yeah, that's
actually I'd say that one is another.
I would say we
guess
see Kiruko's naked body a few times throughout these episodes, almost alarmingly, one would say. But we do see that not just the forehead where the thing happened. We see the body is covered in scars elsewhere, which I don't think you get those just from go-karting. I think some of those are probably from hunting monsters.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I expect. But I'm saying something in the show inevitably, like they're gonna meet some big monster and someone's gonna get horribly mutilated, and then the scar is gonna remain on them. At least that's my theory. Might not happen, but come on, this is totally the type of show that would do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past it. You mentioned the show was moment to moment, never boring, and always engaging, and part of that is helped by the moment to moment art and animation, which is it's been very consistent and very good throughout the whole show thus far. Which is
I mean, if I wanted to just be the worst person imaginable, literally have the worst take in existence, I could say, well, hold on, in some shots the art quality isn't completely up to snuff, but whenever my brain goes that direction, I just have to think to myself, well, in some shows that's like the best looking art quality of the entire show.
I don't know, man. This show I thought looked fucking phenomenal for its run.
I'm literally saying like that's not what I think.
Oh, okay.
Saying, like, yeah, I'm not of that opinion at all. No, I'm just saying the alternate reality version of me that is a nitpicking asshole would say that, but I'm not that version. I think this show is like one of would it be the best looking show of the season?
But like Oshi no Ko exists. I will say this show looks better than Jigoku Raku.
Well, obviously, it looks way better than Jigoku Raku. No comparison.
Maybe Jigoku Raku might have some better
Oshi no Ko.
Might have some better artwork, but as far as if we're talking like animation, Delusion clears it.
Oh, for sure. Oshi no Ko, I guess you could say like, oh well, the character art and the character designs all make it like a more stylish and interesting visual experience. And to be fair, I do prefer Oshi no Ko's character designs, but other than that, like Heavenly Delusion clears. And the thing I like about it so much is that it feels almost cinematic in a way, where whenever you're just watching, it seriously feels like you can like extend your hand and reach into the scene and just feel the grass that the characters are walking on, or like you're right there with them. It has that sort of animation quality, and very, very consistently, like throughout the entire show. I don't think there was a single bad-looking shot. I cannot remember a single bad-looking shot.
I don't remember any bad-looking shots. I do remember there was this one time. I only remember this because it stuck out at the time, and it sticks out in retrospect because I don't remember them doing it again. In episode 2, there's this one moment where they letterbox the shot when they're like trying to hunt the monster around the hotel. And I was trying to remember.
I do remember that.
And I'm like, it definitely looked cool, but I don't remember. I'm trying to think of why they did that only the one time.
I mean, I don't mind it.
I don't mind it. I
I
just
think it
find it
looks
odd
cool.
that they did it once, and like I thought it was gonna be, oh, is this gonna be like a stylistic flourish where they're hunting
To be fair, yeah,
monsters?
I
They'll
did expect it to be more common, and it is, I guess, a little weird that we didn't see it again. But I mean, I thought it looked cool.
yeah, the character designs are a little, they're not bad. I like them a lot. They're a little like loose and malleable is the best way I could describe it. The characters are very expressive. They have very, I was trying to think of the best word. Very morphous features. Whereas like all usually the side characters are pretty stern faced, Akira looking, whereas all of the main children characters are very smug, very well, a lot of them are very effeminate. In fact, it's made a point where Kiruko is made effeminate from both what the circumstances and their actions, and Maru, despite being a male, is also shown to be a very effeminate looking man, and it also extends to the characters in the nursery facility.
They definitely have a very particular style to them, and I definitely like how expressive they are. The one girl with like the black hair in the facility, who just
The
seems
frog
like a
girl.
complete weirdo. Yeah, that's how,
Yeah, that's
I,
Cuckoo, and she's literally just Sue from My Hero Academia, the frog girl.
yeah, she looks adorable, but also like in a weirdly charming way, where she has like
She's
these
the frog
big ol'
girl.
eyes. Yeah, she. I mean, I wasn't thinking Hiroaka when you said that, but when you said it, I immediately knew who you were talking about.
She has the same mannerisms as the frog girl from My Hero.
Ah, yes, the same mannerisms. Frog Girl from Hiroaka says that babies don't have faces.
She delivers it in a similar cadence that she would deliver it, but yeah, Sue would never say something like that. She definitely comes off as a kind of a creepy character, and that brings up a whole thing with the nursery, but we'll get to that when we get to the story.
Yeah, I think my favorite design in the show is Kiruko. I imagine that's most people's favorite. She looks cool, and I like the scars all over her body. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, she's got a
Uh,
badass U.S. Air Force jacket that she got from Robin, her mentor.
yeah, she's badass. She's cool.
I'm trying to think of what my favorite design is. It might be Kiriko by default. Trying to, yeah, I'm trying to think, and there's nothing else that says striking aside from maybe Frog Girl, but I still prefer Kiriko.
Frog Girl is striking in her own weird, dorky way. Mimi Hime has a good design. She
Oh
stands
yeah,
out.
okay. I remember Mimi Hime now.
I like Maru's design. I think I like all the character designs, except maybe Tokyo. I'm not too, okay. Now that I said that, I'm not huge on Tokyo's design, but it still looks distinct from most anime characters.
I
So
feel
you know what?
like
It's better than the average.
the emphasis that they're putting on Tokyo, and also the fact that when we get a flashback of a younger Maru, and I noted that they look strikingly similar to one another.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, a
Oh, you're
young
right.
Tokyo looks like a young Maru, and I'm like, does that mean anything, or is that just a coincidence? Because if we go by art from And Yet the Town Moves, we know that Mr. Ishiguro, he ain't exactly the best when it comes to drawing characters. Because honestly, the first time I saw the cover of the Heavenly Delusion first volume of the manga art, I thought it looked pretty amateurish, and I didn't realize this guy had been in the game for a while.
Okay, hold on. Heavenly Delusion manga. I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, it's Maru
V1 cover.
and Kiruko, and if you looked at it, I think you might agree with me if you just look up Heavenly
It's
Delusion Volume
loading.
1.
I wouldn't say it looks amateurish. I guess maybe Like there isn't a whole lot of shading on the backgrounds.
There's not a lot of
And
detail.
yeah, I
The
guess in
character
that sense you
designs
could
are
say.
like they're cool, but they're also very simplified. They have very simple silhouettes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see where you're coming from. I wouldn't call it amateurish, although the future volume covers, I'm looking at them and they actually look a lot better than the first one.
Yeah,
Volume
I've also
three's
seen those,
cover
and they
looks
do get
nice.
better.
Uh, but now I want to see And Yet the Town Moves first cover.
I remember the poster for the anime being kind of cheap looking, but yeah, that's for yeah, and yet the town moves, but that I suppose is neither here nor there.
Yeah, once again, like I wouldn't call it amateurish, although, yeah.
But would you call it like top tier professional? Like this is some A
I
plus
mean, not
material.
top
Yeah.
tier, but yeah, it just looks fine. It just looks fine to me. I'll say this right out of the gate. There's more Maru and Kiruko just sort of sticking around in the post-apocalypse than I expected, where like not every single scene will push the plot forward, which to be fair, I don't know why I got the impression that it would be more plot focused, because it is totally an adventure show.
I mean, from everything we've
Not to
experienced
say
thus
it's slow
far,
paced. It's not slowly paced at all.
the story's
But
been moving forward in a way that makes both sense within the narrative and sense for a television show, in the sense of, oh, we're not spinning our wheels and going in circles. We're making forward progress towards our goal, even if by it feels like we're making forward progress, because even though we haven't maybe truly achieved like a proper next step towards either achieving heaven or finding the doctor that did what they did to Kiruko, we are obtaining clues and more knowledge about the area and where these whereabouts may be. So it feels like there's always tangible progress being made.
well, yeah, I'm not criticizing the show at all. What I'm getting at is there's more. I wouldn't even call it slice of life because it doesn't feel like that. But like, I don't know, like
It's very
I also don't want
they're
to say
palling
episodic.
around and chumming
Yeah,
chumming it up a lot for a
chumming
post-apocalypse
around it.
story.
Like the whole bear subplot, I guess, is like one of the scenes I would point to as an example of that, where it's not really so much about pushing the plot forward as it is, pushing Kiruko and Maru's relationship forward. Where Kiruko is, back in the day, she was trying really hard to, be there, to be useful to the people around her, useful to her sister slash he. We'll get to that, but she she didn't always feel useful. But now, Maru's like, yo, I'd be dead like 15 times over if it weren't for you. You're a real good shot with your gun. Because Kiruko at the time was like just continuously bribing Maru into, getting the battery and then eventually like taking on the bear for her. She didn't want to get down. But then hearing that, hearing how useful she was like, you know what? I'm going to take all of this on, because she, at her core, wants to be useful. So when she realizes, oh, I am useful, okay, since I'm useful, I'll do literally all of it. I'll take on the entire situation. Maru, you run. And but Maru's obviously not going to do that. He cares too much about Kiruko. He was there with a rock to bash the bear's head in, just in case, And it's stuff like that I think really, helps complete the show that maybe I wasn't expecting so much. Although I'm not sure. Once again, I'm not sure why I didn't expect it, because at the end of the day, it is totally an adventure show in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, I adore the dynamic and the chemistry that Maru and Kiriko have. It's my favorite part of the show. Just seeing them
They make an absolute power duo
couple.
for the main characters and couple. There's no way they don't become a couple. It's so clear.
Heavenly Delusion, Masakazu Ishiguro said gay rights.
I mean, to be fair, we see two girls kissing by the second episode. I mean,
It's
Come
okay.
on.
Maru has the pass because Kiruko is biologically female.
All right, yeah. Well, I guess that's your opinion on that stated. I was literally going to ask you: is Maru kissing Kiruko? Is that gay? I'm gonna go on. I'm going on the side of not gay. It is very much not gay because Kiruko is in the body of a woman.
I mean, it's also a male mind.
Yeah, and
Happy Pride Month,
And?
everybody.
it is not gay. I repeat, Maru is not gay.
You're just saying that because you want to kiss Kiruko, because you're jealous that Haruki is living your like actual dream fantasy that you cannot live.
I'm not jealous. All right. I'm just saying that it's not gay. All right. That Maru is not gay. That
Fellas, is it gay to want to
me.
kiss your homie who's actually a dude whose brain is trapped in the his sister's corpse?
I mean, hey, you know,
When
the
said
Total Fantasy
homie-
Knockout also tackled this same issue.
When
It's a
said
very
homie was
deeply
also
pressing
in
question.
love with his sister.
Just like me for real.
By the way, I know this is a post-apocalypse and we live in a lawless world now, but like, I really hope that they throw in a thing where it's like, oh no, they're not actually blood related. They are just decided to become brother and sister because that's how they met at the orphanage. Because
Are you talking about
Haruki and
talking about
Kiriko.
hold on. Is Haruki because didn't Kiriko have a different name before she became her sister?
Well,
his sister?
Kiruko is the
Okay.
is the name that Haruki took on when his brain was transplanted into her body.
Okay.
And
yeah,
because it's a portmanteau of Haruki and Kiriko. Kiriko was the sister's name.
All right. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, but Haruki is absolutely in love with his sister, romantically
Yeah.
and also sexually, because there is a point where he masturbates in her body.
Yeah, that does happen on screen. I mean, I guess it depends on if Haruki's sister is coming back. I somehow doubt that.
It all depends on if Haruki's sister is into it, also.
There we go. That's what it truly relies on.
Is it truly incest if it's consensual? Yes.
I mean, yeah, but...
yes. Happy Pride Month, everybody.
You just had to throw that last bit in there. Okay, man.
Hey, man, we gotta cover every part of the spectrum.
Yeah, sure. LGBT.
Should I cut that part out? Should I cut out that I implied incest as part of the LGBTQ spectrum?
I mean, depends. How many people screaming at you on Twitter are you willing to tolerate?
It depends. How many of them actually made it this far in the video?
The world may never know. Unless we keep it in, then the world will absolutely know.
Maybe
3 years from now, when this inevitably gets dug up and used against us.
in part of the Google Docs. We'll never have as many Google Docs against us as Yaki. I'll take solace in that. Ah, topical.
Actually, that's way off topic. Actually, I don't even want to open that rabbit hole. You can tell me after the show. Okay, but anyway, plot. So, Heavenly Delusion follows essentially two parallel-ish storylines that are happening simultaneously. It's Tokyo at the facility. I guess I should describe what the facility is first of all. Okay, there's so much.
Have you ever seen
said.
Darling in the Franxx?
I have not actually seen Darling in the Franxx.
Okay, well shit, this is gonna take a little longer than I thought. Basically, what it seems like is happening in the nursery is something very similar to that, except for instead of raising these children to fight giant energy dinosaur monsters using mecha, they are raising these kids and it looks like they've never outright said it, but they've said stuff implicitly implying that was redundant, implying
great English, Neon.
yeah, implying that they've been experimented on to be, superhuman, and we see that they are in fact superhuman, kind of like Maru, where they fall great distances, they do all of these superhuman things that should kill them, but they are just fine afterwards. And so what they end up doing with them, they're raising them in this like nursery environment where there's like a playground outside, but it's not truly outside. It's all within a big facility, like a science lab, and
they've got robots in the schools, faceless babies hidden away behind vents.
Your typical stuff. Florida public school.
Exactly.
And it's not just robots. So the adults will also come out and will talk to the kids occasionally. They just like to leave things in the hands of the robots. And
they just like to watch everyone a la Big Brother. Like that, like in that one book.
Yeah, it's literally that book.
It's just like 1976.
It's just like the bite of 87. And as they're watching over them, it looks like the kids are going through a sort of, no other way to describe it outside of a sexual revolution, or it's like puberty is starting to hit them like a truck. It seems like they're being raised in a way where they're not allowed to know, not necessarily what puberty and their sexual awakenings are, but they are noting that it is in fact happening to them, and the adults are both confused and intrigued by it, in the sense of, we didn't raise them to be this way. We only raised them to be like immune to most diseases and be able to be stronger than, your average human. So why are these two little lesbians, kissing each other and being happy about that? And
could it be that being horny is simply a part of the human experience, and that even if you don't tell people about that, they will inevitably find that out about themselves?
You hear that, asexuals? You are in fact not valid.
You're not real. Oh god, we definitely
Happy Pride Month.
Alright, quick. Every time Neon says Happy Pride Month this podcast, take a shot. You'll die.
Yeah, but no, like, you think we're joking, like, playing up the sexual angle, but, like, the end of episode 7 literally ends with, Tokyo sneaking out to the artist boy, I believe his name's Kona, sneaking out to his room, and they're undressing, and it looks like they're about to do the deed.
This show is surprisingly forward with its inclusion of sexuality. It is very, very present.
Yeah, this white-haired nerd kid gets sent a nude by Mimi Hime of her showering, and he gets so distraught when he finds out, like, wait, where's the picture? It was right here. I didn't back it up. I didn't put it on an external hard drive. And this is why you always gotta back up your porn, kids. So you never lose the N hentai tag of that one manga that you really like but you forgot the name of.
Always save it to the cloud. But anyway.
Yeah, so he asks her to like talk about, like, hey, did you send that thing? And she's like, what thing? I don't know what you're talking about. And then he just starts describing like all of the things all of the urges that he's developing about her, and how he's like trying his best to describe them, about how he wants to take off her clothes and touch her, and even do things like licking, where like it's very much a, horny teens like not understanding their horniness because they're not given a proper sexual education. They're just being like, it's literally just their instincts kicking in.
Yeah, and it's just a thing that happens in this show. It's just a part of the plot, and I kind of appreciate it.
Yeah, they're definitely building to something with it, and the sexual revolution will commence at some point in the show, and it's not just isn't secluded to just this half of the story. There's some shenanigans going. Well, we've already talked about, is it gay that Maru is in love with Kiruko?
Yeah, it's not. I refuse to believe it is. I am staunchly of this opinion, and I will fight you.
Well, I guess while we're on the subject of that, so we can tell them just how hard you're just projecting. And at the end of
I'm
episode
not
2,
projecting.
based Kiruko shoots down in a confession by Maru, who comes out as trans at the end of episode 2. What an icon. But it's unlike most people who just have come to the understanding that they were born in the wrong body and just want to go on living in what they truly think is the right body for them. Haruki, what was the last name? Takehaya didn't have that same revelation.
You were calling this in during the seasonal cast. You were already speculating because I forget how many episodes there were by that point. I think just 2.
I think so.
You're already and you were already speculating that she was actively literally a male brain being put into a female body somehow. And as it turns out, that was the next episode 3, which tells the backstory of how Kiruko, formerly Haruki, ends up, in the body of the sister whom he loves so dearly. And even though we haven't gone outright and explained it in full, I feel like we've sort of danced around the subject enough that people can get the gist of what happened.
Yeah, long story short, this is also very Akira-esque, because Haruki basically goes through almost beat for beat the exact same plot, story arc as a character arc rather, as Tetsuo from Akira, where he is he's the little runt of the gang and wants to prove himself to be a big strong tough guy, but he doesn't get too many chances to prove himself because either he usually gets it over his head or he is always lagging behind the other bigger tougher guy gang members of his gang. And so we see that in his version of what is essentially his Kaneda in the form of Robin, who's I don't know if he's the gang leader per se, but he's definitely a big, strong, tough guy that Haruki looks up to and inherits his jumper. So he's always wanted to impress him, and so he can also look after his sister that he is in love with. But I guess we'll see how that plays out before we can make any final calls on if that's weird or not. He goes out on one night, even when Robin tells him not to, on a town-wide man-eater hunt with his cool crossbow that he made himself that shoots rocks. And he does say that it does help him kill one, and he because of that he gets this false sense of, hey, you know what, I'm a tough guy, I killed a man-eater, and
I am a Giga Chad.
Yeah, I do have the bwam 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 bwam. He just has the music playing in the background. But then that confidence, even though it was of good intentions, when he sees an invisible man-eater that's gonna appear on the go-kart track that his sister Kiriko is racing on at the time in order to save her life, he makes the foolish decision to fight it on its own instead of going to get others for help, even though there's also the thing where there's not enough time, I can definitely take it on myself, I'm man enough. He almost dies because of this, and Kiriko comes to his rescue, but only sees that it might be too late. His body has already been half-eaten. And then we hear some gunshots, and we never directly see what is the cause of those gunshots. But from what we are told, Kiriko was found dead at the scene, and, well, I forget what was I'm trying to remember the order of events with the doctors to make sure that I'm not leaving anything out. Oh yeah, they labeled it psychosis. So while she is considered dead, they think that because Haruki's body was clearly super dead, and Kiriko was only like found there with the body, and then Kiriko's body is the one that wakes up at the hospital. The doctor's like, "Well, sorry, kid, I hate to break it to you, but your little brother is dead, and yeah, your sister. So you're down, brother, kid. Sorry to say, but Haruki has his brain implanted inside Kiriko's body, but presumably by this doctor guy who was always hanging around Kiriko and was like the doctor of their orphanage. So Haruki assumes that he had to have been the one responsible for this. So when he wakes up in Kiriko's body, he wants answers. Damn it! He's like his voice is no longer his; it's hers. He starts growing into her body, and the doctors all think that because she's trying to say like, "No, I'm Haruki," they think that she's like having a fit of delusion. She's a heavenly delusion. One could say that she thinks that she's the boy because of what happened. And that's pretty much that story. He's so Haruki, now taking on the name Kiruko, is making it his/her mission to track down the doctor and maybe also find Robin, even though he's presumed dead. But he's like, no, there's no evidence that Robin's dead. God damn it, he must know what's going on. I'ma find them both, and I'll become a man-eater hunter to do so.
I'm not always one for like flashback episodes because it sometimes feels like, like, oh, I want to hear, I want to see this main plot that I'm more invested in unfold. But this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the show, if not the one I'd consider my favorite, because it's like such an interesting story, and I love the way it's told, and well, yeah, you pretty much hit every single beat of the episode essentially, and it like takes up an entire episode, but it feels completely justified with the runtime it takes up. It's very interesting. Gives yet another layer to Kiruko and Maru's relationship, and this thing where like Maru's clearly in love with her, but Kiruko is like, bro, we're just bros, we're just homies, right?
How fucked up would it be? And I don't think the show's gonna take this route because I feel like they wouldn't dedicate so much time to setting all this specific character and plot stuff up, or in order for it to be a gotcha moment at the end. But how fucked up would it be if the doctors are right and this is in fact Kiriko the whole time, and the brain was never actually transplanted, and it's just like a form of survivor's guilt and psychosis that.
Well, then how would she get the scar? How would she get the scar in her head?
She crashed her cart.
I guess, but like it's a perfect circle around her head.
Yeah, I know. I don't buy into it. I'm just saying, how fucked would it be if that were the case the whole time?
It would be mess.
That she like convinced herself that she was her dead little brother.
That would actually be really interesting. Now that you're saying that, that would be an interesting character. Probably not right for this show, but I'm keeping that in the folder in my brain to use at a later date. Someday, 20 years from now, I will explore this plot line in a story. Mark my words.
I'm trying to remember. I could have sworn we talked about a character from something on the podcast in recent memory that's literally just that, where it's like a character who was a sibling of another character who died, and they just took on their name in their likeness to, I don't know, not necessarily because they were crazy, but in honor of them.
I don't remember that. If we did, yeah, I'm drawing a complete blank.
Okay, actually, you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Yamato from One Piece. Then the thing.
Yes, we did cover One Piece last
in the
week.
future. I got visited by Neon and Crunchy from the future. 5 years from now when they start watching
the Ghost of Castaway anime future.
Yeah, we start talking about One Piece, and then it showed us our graves because One Piece was still going on before we died. While we died, after we died.
Yes, welcome to Castaway Anime number 1227. Still not as many episodes as One Piece has.
Hey, we're catching up. One day there will be as many One Piece episodes as at the very least Bleach episodes.
But anyway. So, aside from that, we got the whole plot line at the, for some reason I'm blanking on the facility. How did I blank on the word facility? Anyway, we got the plot line at the facility where Cuckoo, it starts off with this amazingly creepy moment where the hot dude that Tokyo's all over is, drawing her a picture, and it's of a baby, and Cuckoo's like, yo, that's so weird. The baby has a face. Babies don't have faces. And Tokyo is like, but Cuckoo eventually shows
like,
Tokyo,
hey, yo?
hey, here's some babies. I know how to find some babies, and these fellas do not have faces. I can show you.
They have very creepily man-eater-esque faces where they have like the rings.
They do. And
I wonder if in this post-apocalypse story, man was the real monster the whole time.
Although, now that you've said that, I'm drawing a connection. In the later episode 7, we're following this, or rather, the characters are trying to find this place that puts man-eater brains into human bodies in order to like live forever, or something to that effect, combining man-eater and man in order to achieve immortality. I forget. You probably remember what the actual organization is called.
The Immortal Order.
Yeah, Immortal Order. I wonder if it has something to do with that. Not that the facility is necessarily like with the Immortal Order, although that could be the case, but more so that this is a known technique and that you can, by combining man-eater and man, you can do various things, and one of these things is superpowers, apparently, which is how Maru came to be. He's part man-eater, and that's how he has all these superpowers. I just wrote the plot of this show for you.
I would not be surprised if Maru and the rest of the nursery kids are in fact like born of like, we're probably like man-eater or like bred with man-eater, or like genetically engineered with man-eater DNA or some shit like that at birth to give them their strength.
Yeah, we're told that the children in this facility are immune to
most illnesses.
Yeah, most illnesses, but there's this one that ends up infecting this one guy who's in love with Tokyo, and who Tokyo is like, nah, fam, I'm not into you. In his final moments,
I'm not into terminally deaf kids.
Yes, that was exactly what she said. She was just that cruel. But yeah, he tells Tokyo at the last minute, like, get out of here, it's dangerous. So clearly something is brewing at the facility. They're being bred to be superheroes, not superheroes, but superpowered people. And
even the adults at the facility, you would think they would be like purposefully mysterious and like holding their information close to the chest and around the kids, and which they do, but like when we see them just by themselves, they can kind of be like very emotional. They genuinely mourn the loss of some of the kids. They don't just seem like, fuck, we lost another one, gotta go back to the drawing board, gotta go back to the local orphanage, pick ourselves up a new kid. They're like actually distraught when they couldn't save one, and they're horrified to realize that after they cremated one, they found like this weird bug grub thing inside of the cremated remains. And like there's even a moment where one scientist guy gets the wheelchair bound director of the facility, like in like a comedic sense, just like zooms her into a room, and she like has a comedically over the top screaming reaction. And like you don't really portray serious facility Big Brother 1984 type characters this way.
They aren't exactly, at least as far as we know.
They don't appear to be malicious At least
Yeah,
not
they
yet.
have good
They do have a
intentions
robot director
heart.
overlord.
That robot director could be malicious.
But that
But as
remains to
far
be
as we
seen.
know, yeah. So the place is filled with mysteries, and I am very hyped for when the main plot line and the the facility plot line finally converge, because it's gonna happen. Tokyo's gonna escape the facility, probably with some other people. Maybe all of them are gonna.
We're gonna promise Neverland this shit.
Heck yeah, it'll be just like Promised Neverland
Season 1 specifically.
and season 2.
Hopefully, preferably not season 2, please.
You can only hope.
We can only fear.
We can only fear, yeah. And aside from that, the only other plot thing I remember, or that I think is worth talking about, is Maru and Kiruko looking for this emblem, which has like a Yatagarasu on it or something like that. And it's someone says it's I had this written down somewhere. I need to find it.
Mitsuba or
Someone
something
says
is like a
Mitsuba's
company.
logo. Yeah. It is not Mitsuba's logo, but they are looking for who done did had this logo, because it's on the pistol, the weird laser pistol that Kiruko has.
Which is just also just a cool weapon. I think we talked about this in the
cool.
spring podcast, but a battery operated laser pistol it's cool.
And she just straight up sears a bear's head off, and it's also like very limited in how many times it can be used. Like I think it was during the fight with the fish monster where the fish monster, they couldn't use the laser, and so they were like, well hold on, how are we gonna fight this? And Kiruko's like, I got a plan. And they lead it to the weed and let it get high, and they smoke a joint with the monster, and then eventually they kill it because the monster's too high to fight back. That's what happens. Don't contradict me, Neon. That's exactly how it played out.
It is, in fact, exactly how it played out to the letter. There's a moment where Maru's jumped by a bunch of thugs while playing Dragon Quest and lamenting to them that his crush turned out to be a guy, which is just the story of my life. That was the most relatable moment in anime all year.
Yeah, same, bro. I just like the idea that the laser pistol thing. What is it? Kiru beam?
Yeah, the Kiru
I don't think
beam.
that was it.
The Kiru beam
was
and the
the
Maru
Kiru
touch.
Oh, I got it right for once. Heck yeah. And so, yeah, I just like that it's so limited in its use. I think it has like 4 or 5 shots, something around there, and it constantly the battery needs to be charged. It's a really powerful weapon, but you can only use it so much, and that's such a nice writing tool to be able to exploit, to put the characters in extremely dangerous situations, or make it that hey, every miss counts. If you miss a shot, you're screwed.
I guess the last thing to talk about is the thing with the towards the end of this batch of episodes with the Immortal Order. Although I'd be hard pressed to forget to bring up Totri, aka the second coming of Ruka Rent-A-Girlfriend.
The inn owner?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in episode 6, she, so Kiruko and Maru, for context, have made, alright, so Maru fetched the battery for Kiruko, because Kiruko was like, my homie, you can touch my tit if you get that for me.
And he jumps without hesitation.
He is, yeah, like
knowing his power has
doesn't even finish her sentence.
Yeah, knowing his power has no effect on the bear because it's just a normal ass bear. He's just like, yeah, alright, bet.
He's willing to risk it all. He is down horrendous.
Sex is just a theme in the show, or at the very least, sexuality is.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
It is very neon pilled
anyway.
of them.
Yeah. And so, Maru, having not forgotten the bet, is like, Kiruko, madam, your boobs seem heavy. May I carry them for you? He says that exact line verbatim. Don't contradict me.
He did. I applauded.
Yeah. And so, but the innkeeper comes in and is like, Maru, look at the sign. It says don't make a mess.
No,
You can't do that here.
you can't come on the outside, but if you want, you can come in my insides. And she said that word for word.
I that was when I stood up and applauded. So yeah, he starts off being like, bro, the innkeeper cockblocked him. How dare she? This is the worst fate imaginable. No. Turns out she just wanted to seduce him. It was like, she starts listing out the things they own. And is like, no, I think, I forget exactly what it was, but some item they owned for being able to do her. Yeah, very base of the innkeeper.
I think he should have taken the deal, goddammit.
Nah, he just has it in for Kiruko.
I suppose he is loyal. And then it's very humorous how he's like, hey, Kiruko, come quick. I almost touched her mitochondria. And I almost got inside of...
Okay, this line had me laughing for like a minute straight when the narrator comes in out of nowhere. So for context, Maru has this naked woman pinned against a bed.
Mounted,
calling
essentially.
For Kiruko. Yeah, essentially mounted. And he's like, Kiruko, come here. And Kiruko walks in. And, Maru was calling for help. Because he was like, bro, I'm not consenting to this. I'm not... Innkeeper, get off of me. But eventually, Kiruko comes in and she's like shocked. And Maru's like, oh my god. And
I got it in.
And the narrator's like, after realizing the difficulties of having to explain the various misunderstandings of the situation, all Maru could see was the dark depths of despair. It is banger line.
It was in fact a banger.
Literally banger. Yeah, that's about it for that.
I'm currently Googling Totori's canon age to make sure that what I'm about to say won't land me on any list.
Totori, I feel your struggle, man. I feel your struggle.
It is not my fault the way they drawed her in various 10 out of 10 poses.
So what is the final point you wanted to make?
Yeah, the last thing in episode 7, we're starting to approach the some more neon pilled goodness of an ideological conflict going on in this story, while also simultaneously we may be approaching some Made in Abyss levels of fucked uppery, where we've got the Immortal Order, who are this group led by this Dr. Usami guy, who is made it a point to be like, hey, let's you, after the Great Disaster, kind of fucked up the world, wouldn't it be great to live in a world where we could be free of consequence by making ourselves immortal? So even if we were to go through another great disaster, it wouldn't be so detrimental to society if we all just could survive it as easily as we survive just waking up in the morning for the next day. And so to meet this end, he does a lot of experiments with machines and prosthetics, and also man-eaters, allegedly. So when this happened, a one female doctor, I forget her name, was trying to get herself treated at the Immortal Order hospital that he runs, but instead of just treating whatever was messing up her leg at the time, they were just saying, hold on, we trust us, we're professionals. Restrains her, amputates her leg, and then replaces it with just the prosthetic one that you see typical amputees get with the bent piece of metal. That I always wondered how those worked as the structural dynamics of them, and how why they're designed like that to best suit a replacement leg. What about it is leg like?
I guess you'd have to. I imagine it's slightly springy with the way it's made, and maybe that has something to do with it, where it's easier to put your weight on it and easier to move around. And it's like
And
very
like they're
lightweight.
designed to run in too, because like you see, in Paralympics, those are the kind of legs that they have when they like those kinds of athletes are running.
Yeah, I imagine it's just because it's lightweight and springy, if I had to guess, but I am not a doctor. Don't quote me on any of this.
Hey man, Usami might not be the most ethical doctor either, because he's got a little project behind the curtain that no one's allowed to see, but the female doctor who got her leg amputated, against her will, took a little peek behind the curtain, and what she saw, she described as a man chopped up into so many pieces that, like, he should be dead. Like, this should be, like, something out of fucking Saw movie. But for some reason, he was hooked up to, like, a shit ton of machines. And those machines were keeping him alive in, like, some kind of unholy affront to God level experiment, which is what made me think,
You literally see him, like,
Oh.
reach out his hand in one shot, and it has blood all over it. It's like the bro is probably bleeding out.
And we hear like a very robotic
something
voice
like that has
let out
opened
something
wounds.
let me die, please. Like, it is in
I have
fact
no mouth,
agony.
but I cannot. I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Yeah, like very. It's clearly that this is agony for this guy, and it is. And that's why I'm sure Dr. Usami, like, has lunch with Bondrewd on Sundays, where they share their how their experiments are going.
When are we starting hashtag Usami did nothing wrong?
I mean, we have to find out if he's right first. So that
hey, what's one death on the path to immortality? Come on, Neon.
Hey, yeah, ask Prushka. But hey, what do you have to say?
Oh wait, hold on. I don't think I
can. Wait, I take it back immediately. Yeah, so this inspires the doctor lady to form her own counter group against them, called like Living Human or some shit, where they are just like straight up anti-machine. They're like prosthetics
they are outright Luddites.
Yeah, they are like prosthetics are in fact the devil. If you have a pacemaker, you're going to hell. We do not need machines anymore. Electricity and machinery brought us nothing but war, tanks, fighter planes, death. It probably caused the great disaster, even though we don't know exactly what it is yet. But it played a part in it, I guess, somehow. And they're like, no more machines, no more electricity. We're living off the land, baby.
She literally like throws away her prosthetic leg before collapsing down. Yeah, it is an interesting ideological conflict, and I'm sure we basically cut off right as it was starting to develop. Like the cliffhanger for episode 7 is Maru and Kiruko meeting Dr. Usami for the first time, which made me want to hit the next episode button immediately. By the way, but
yeah, because it's when even though he's come strapped with a gat, but instead of killing either of them, he approaches them and asks, "Hey, could you do me a favor? Since you're so good at killing man-eaters, could you kill someone else to quote-unquote save them?" And we don't know yet because we haven't seen what the next episode is, what he meant by that, but it is a very strong cliffhanger to get you to watch the next episode.
Which I can't do until we do the next podcast.
I mean, you could. Curse. You just have to watch it week to week and keep notes every week.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. You severely overestimate my capacity to remember things.
I did get spoiled on what happens in episode 8 of Oshinoko, and it is very intriguing to see what happens.
I am not spoiled on episode 8 of Oshinoko. I mean, I maintain it. I am spoiler proof. I cannot be spoiled.
Well, I got spoiled for it on fucking Instagram, so you'll have to blame me. You'll have to pardon me from blame if it just shows up in my search feed. Not because I like. And not the search feed where I type in Oshinoko. It's just like on my recommended.
Yes, episode 8 Oshinoko spoiler. Aqua and Ruby get married.
That's episode 9, but we won't know for sure because it got delayed.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait till they animate that scene from the manga. Was a banger. Yeah, we got that ideological conflict brewing in the background, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. I guess the real question is
this show of the
all,
season?
I was about to ask a similar question. Of all the shows you've seen this season and that I've seen this season, which is the best?
Well, see, the problem with that is I still have only seen the first episodes of Skip and Loafer, Insomniacs After School, and whatnot. And while the story, obviously they're not going to have as interesting plots, but I can't help but wonder if I'm just going to like the characters and like what goes on in their little stories, more so than what happens here. In the same sense that like Dragon Maid does not necessarily have a plot, but it has this shenanigans that the characters get up to, and the characters themselves are some of my all-time favorites, and that's why I adore it so much. It's about the execution rather than, just the concept itself.
Well, I'm faring a bit better than you in that department. Granted, Skip and Loafer is still an unknown variable, but I've read the Insomniacs manga, so I know what happens there. And I have some frame of reference for how I'll enjoy it going forward. I've seen the first 6 episodes of Mashal. I need to watch episodes 7 and 8. They came out. Episode 8 came out literally today, and at least I think it was today. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it came out today. And I've watched the first 4 episodes of Magical Destroyers, and what definitely surprised me, and what the me who said all this stuff during the seasonal podcast would probably be shocked to hear is that I would actually place this above what I've seen of Magical Destroyers so far. And I'll even go further and say that I'd place it above Jigokudaku, despite my enjoying Jigokudaku so much. And although I really think it's a testament to just how good this season of anime is, that like every show we've tried to watch. First of all, we're watching 3 anime this season, which we
Whereas
don't
last
always
season
do.
we
Last
didn't watch
season,
one.
We didn't watch any. And like all of them have been great so far, and like none of these shows are looking less than an 8 so far. I'll say that.
Yeah, all 3 of them are definitely at least 8 out of 10 caliber.
Yeah. Surprisingly, maybe Magical Destroyers, but I have heard it gets better after episode 4, so we shall see. But yeah, Heavenly Delusion, absolute banger. I'm not sure if I'd place it above Mashal or Oshinoko.
See,
Oshinoko is episode 6.
I'm trying to
alone.
I'm ranking, if we're ranking like just the 3 shows that we're covering this season for the podcast, definitely Oshinoko is at the top, even though if comparatively, as far as its plot goes, it's not as epic or maybe even adventurous as Jigokuraku and Hell's Paradise, not Hell's Paradise, Jigokuraku and Heavenly Delusion, who have, more
funny how we have
adventures.
A show called Hell's Paradise and one called Heavenly Delusion this season.
Yeah, I know, we have one called Hell's Delusion and one called Heavenly Paradise.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so even though what happens in Oshinoko is not as epic, or maybe even like you could argue it's not as cool as what happens in these shows. They got, creepy fucked up concepts and they had cool action. But I find myself more gravitated to Oshinoko just because the execution of its themes and its story is more appealing to me personally, and B, I think as far as like which show executes its own individual themes and ideas the best, I still think Oshinoko's is the best in this regard. Because like we both, like you said, that I agree with you. Episode 6 is one of the best episodes of anime of the year.
I still have it as the best episode I have seen out of anime to come out this year, and yeah, I'd put Oshinoko above Heavenly Delusion so far. Mashal is a bit closer, but I think I'm gonna like slightly edge out Mashal just because it does personally appeal to me so much, and I find it so funny and entertaining, and love all the characters to death so far. So
You put Mashal over
no,
Oshinoko?
no, Oshinoko
Oh.
over Mashal.
Oh,
Then
okay.
Mashal second place, Heavenly Delusion third place.
Okay. If we're talking just these 3 shows, it would be Oshinoko at the top, and then it's hard for me to go back and forth between Jigokuraku and Heavenly Delusion because I l- if you ask me what I'm more interested in seeing how the story unfolds, I would say Jigokuraku. But if you told me which show I thought had the better like production values and has like the better direction, I would say Heavenly Delusion. So it comes down to like a coin flip. If I had to give like the slightest edge, you put a gun to my head, I would say Jigokuraku, if only because I find its story and characters and the way it's telling it like 1% more appealing to me personally. Like it
Uh,
is by a hair's thread that Jigokuraku is like more appealing to me than Heavenly Delusion. But they're pretty
to
much
be
of
fair,
equal.
Jigokuraku has like these big wacky bad guys with crazy personalities that are like I guess more viscerally appealing to me, whereas like Heavenly Delusion is a lot more grounded, despite
Yeah, there's a lot more
out
mystery
there.
going. There's a good amount of mystery in both of these shows, but there's like a lot more like weirdo mystery, and like we haven't even touched on this one important plot point that we've seen throughout the nursery's storyline, where the children on the surveillance cameras, despite we see them moving around and stuff, they're not actually there, question mark. They're like ghosts or like psychically projecting themselves, or like they're dreaming all this shit.
Yeah, they're like I mean the show is riddled with mysteries, and well, like listing them all out on a whim it would probably be difficult because there are just so many. Uh, Although despite that, the characters are very grounded and feel very true to life. And I mean, I'm an Isio Eason fan, so you know that I like him completely psychotic. But even still, I think what puts Heavenly Delusion above Hell's Paradise to me is that it just looks and is directed so much better, in my opinion.
I
Like
was
the
surprised to
G-
find out that the opening was not had nothing to do with Masaki Yuasa, when it's like almost literally his style with like the sketchy
okay,
flowiness of the animation.
God, I meant to mention this earlier, but you just now brought it back to my mind. The OP of this show is so good. I
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
I love the one shot of uh Kiruko outrunning her outline.
There's this I don't even know why it stuck with me so much, but the one shot near the beginning of this like little kid with the pinwheel in his hand. It's a wooden guy, right? Like a lawn decoration. But just sort of like it has this sense of ordinariness while also being melancholic with the song around it.
Yeah,
And the
there's a
entire
level of
song,
shaky cam when they're running to like up
yeah,
the intensity and the tempo.
dude, I love like the way it threads the shots of like Kiruko and Maru running through the post-apocalyptic wasteland while intercutting it with other shots of them doing stuff, like not Kiriko, Maru looking into the camera, turning his head from side to side. It's wonderfully directed, and
Yeah, definitely a
the
contender for
song.
opening of the year.
I mean, I'd still say Heavenly Delusion clears, Oshinoko OP clear, not Heavenly Delusion clears. Why did I say that? Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers. There we go. Magical Destroyers clears. And Oshinoko clears. In terms of OP. The ED... I have... Oh god, this is awkward. I never actually watched the ED.
It's not bad. The song I do not care for. The opening song is good, but it's not.
I love the
it's not my type of music. It's something that I can listen to while I'm watching the show, but it's not something I'd listen to outside of it.
I love the song for the OP. The ED, the thing that stopped me from watching it is that I would listen to the first few notes, and I was like, this is too cheerful. I'm just going to move on to the next episode. It felt like whiplash. I'm not sure if that carries into the entire song, because I never listened to it.
I think it's
I was being
Maru and
super
Kiruko, just like, I think it's a character song of the two of them, just like singing about their adventures. And like the things that happen in the ED, it's not, there's this one beautiful sequence of like a whale that's like really art housey, that's swimming around. I think it's like a part of one of Kona's drawings, I think. I don't know. I also started skipping the ED after like the second time, so I don't blame you.
And I think that about does it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much everything. That will. Yeah, that's it. That acted as a nice little capper to the spring season first half of the. Well, yeah, a capper to what is essentially the first half of the spring 2023 season of anime. And now, as we take a bit of a break from covering seasonals while they wrap up so we can do our second half episodes, we've got plans for finishing the first Soul Society arc of Bleach next week, and then we'll do the second season of Rent-a-Girlfriend. And then we're gonna take a little break because all the other shows are fucking taking a break.
Every show got
except
delayed
Heavenly
by...
Delusion. Maybe that's why Heavenly Delusion is show of the season, because it didn't get fucking delayed.
How is it every show? Is the anime industry crumbling around us? Who knows?
Hey, Oshinoko was never even bad looking.
I mean, hey, just because the show's good looking doesn't necessarily mean its production isn't falling apart on the inside. I'm looking at you, wondering priority.
Yeah. And yeah, with that, that'll bring us to an end of this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like, head on down to the comments, let us know what you thought about Heavenly Delusion and other seasonals from the spring 2023 season. Let us know if there's anything that you'd like us to cover in the future. We do read the comments, so, be as hurtful and or nice as you want.
Please be hurtful. I'm a masochist.
Yeah, we're too cheerful. Please give us the scathing review. We are tricking them into engaging to give us more watch time and get us more recommendations in the feed.
I mean, it's not a trick if you tell them.
Well, by the time they do it now, it'll be been too late. And that'll do it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Heavenly French Toast. God, I'm running out of ideas.
That one isn't even like crunchy themed. You just threw in Heavenly because that was the name of the show.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, I got the French toast in there. That's a bread item, right? It's still on theme.
I suppose it is, and I suppose you'll see us next time.